All right, so welcome everyone to our first planning meeting for a Democracy in Action Summit. We do not have an official title yet, but hopefully we will in the coming weeks. So I'm tentatively using the title Democracy in Action. My name is Lucy Gray. I run virtual events and am a consultant in the education sector. And as I mentioned to our group assembled earlier, this impetus came after I ran a conference for the Charter for Compassion that was a cross-sector effort on compassionate work. Um, and I feel like there's not really an opportunity for grassroots, boots on the ground people to learn about democracy and to think about the actions they can take to help preserve it. And so that's kind of the impetus behind this event. I'm hoping that organizations, individuals from all sectors and all ages will participate in something that is kind of a grassroots thing. There doesn't seem to be a conference out there, or at least a virtual one, that kind of teaches people how to operate in a democratic society. And I'm hoping that will be the goal of this. So I think it's pretty alarming. I just showed a site called Freedom House, and they had some data on there saying 72% of the world now lives under some sort of autocratic governance, which is pretty alarming. We know that here in the United States, that trust in institutions is really low. And some people would think that we're kind of coming to a crisis moment where we have to fight to preserve our democracy. So, how do we do that? How do we get more people involved who may not necessarily be, they might be first time uh, participants in civic activities. So there is a gap, and I'm a big AI person, and I did generated a kind of a research brief that I'll reference at the end on the state of the who's in this space. And they tend to the kinds of conferences and events that go on right now tend to be kind of siloed. So they're government focused, they're policy people, kind of pie in the sky kinds of events for government people and academics. And there, you may see something that's related to, education, like, there are organizations that are doing events, but there's not necessarily something that brings all different kinds of people and groups together. So I really want this to be a cross-sector forum that builds on skills and builds bridges between different communities that are have a stake in the future of democracy. So this is the vision to bring together all different kinds of people, student activists, organization leaders. I would love to have some politicians talk about their work and how they've been community builders. We want this to be super practical and actionable and really kind of come up with solutions and strategies that will help people feel like they're making a difference too. I think the other thing I'm observing is that people feel helpless. And we want people to feel empowered and to find that one, at least one thing that they can do to help improve the situation. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a big task like starting a conference, but it could be something as simple as using an app to contact your legislators or whatever it is. So we want people to come away with some practical ideas, at least one thing that they can do that they feel like they can manage. Um, so we'd like to also see, I think one of the things I've learned from my virtual events is that these are opportunities for people to network and to build partnerships. And that's how things get done is when there's partnerships and people are mobilizing together. It's really hard to do things alone as an organization or as an individual. So we hope that people will form strategic partnerships and get to know each other's work and be inspired by each other's work. Because there's enough work that is to be done in this kind of situation that I don't see organizations and individuals being in competition with each other. It's really about finding the right partners and collaborators so that you can further your work. So that's another aspect of this. So These are the themes that I have devised, and we can completely change these. One of the things I wanted to mention is that when I've run virtual events, I have kind of a formula for the process. And in order to get something off the ground, I tend to uh, be the sole person kind of planning and executing. And I wanted this event to be more collaborative and more committee based and more inclusive because I tend to do things on my own just to get things done.
Right.
And I feel like I think that needs to be buy-in from lots of different people. And that's why I'm hoping some of you will be on the conference committee. I do have a basic structure though. I usually create some sort of overview document and a call for proposals. I use Jotform for the call for proposals and people submit them. I have some automations in that process that makes it very easy for people to for me to approve their proposals and then have people do the next steps. Usually presenters do the next steps include scheduling their own presentation and coming to a training session to learn Ring Central events. And so I have kind of those building blocks already set so that we can get things off the ground pretty quickly. But again, like all this is not set in stone. It may sound like it because I'm telling you all this, but this is totally open to your interpretation and your suggestions. But these are the kind of the eight themes people would pick when they submit a proposal. They would go under one of these topics. So civic education, uh, have a bit. I don't know if we want to have a business one, but we could. But generally, hopefully, the sessions will fit under these kinds of topics. Um, and again, we can totally change these. I think having a media literacy and counter misinformation theme is really important. That's where librarians can come into place. People from other countries can submit something under the Global Democracy Network. I would love to hear from activists in other parts of the world. Um, so this is hopefully this will give you an idea of the kinds of sessions that we're looking for. In terms of format, I think in general, from the events that I've produced, I think shorter is a little bit better. When we've tried to do longer workshops, it's been harder to grasp people's attention online, especially for an hour and a half sitting online. I just did a 5 hour library workshop. It was like 5 hours of Zoom. Um,
Wow.
uh, for I think it was School Library Journal, and it was a lot. And
Yeah.
so how do we also break things up and make it appealing to people who may be a little leery of the technology platform? These are some suggestions. Maybe shorter workshops and not 90-minute things, but something that's interactive and we can do some coaching for people who might need ideas for making an online thing presentation interactive. We could have some, you know, simulation type of things where people are working on solutions. Maybe they're meetings of people who are interested in a topic and planning other endeavors, kind of a birds of a feather type of thing, maybe. We could have panel discussions. We could have lightning talks, where they're very short. I could see a lot of organizations doing this, coming in and doing like a 15-minute pitch about what their organization does and how people can get involved. We could do more intensive boot camps, but that kind of feels redundant to the solutions lab or the interactive workshops. But generally, I have general sessions for 50 to 60 minutes, and then I have lightning talks for 20 minutes, and those seem to be appealing to people. So
Yeah.
again, this is open to your input. Typically, the first glow that I did 4 years ago, we had 1,100 registrants. Last year, we had 800. It depends on how much I can get out the word
Yeah.
in general. And it depends. I don't make a ton of money off of these events if we charge or anything like that. I don't. That's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah.
A lot of the money that I get from these events goes towards advertising and that sort of thing. It's not a money-making venture particularly, unfortunately. I wish it was, to supplement my income, but it's not really.
Yeah.
So, because I want to make these things as accessible as possible.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what I would target is, between 400 and 700 people. We had about 750 at the Compassionate Action Conference in April. And and I think that's reasonable to get. It's really hard to draw people online these days. It has to be pretty compelling.
Yeah.
Even a compelling keynote speaker isn't necessarily a draw. And so the way that I position it too when I have featured speakers is I say to them basically, I don't have any money, but I will promote your work as much as I can, and you'll have a captive audience, and we'll give you a copy of the recording and that sort of thing. So that's generally how I've done it. If we do raise more money, we could pay people a small stipend if we want to bring in certain people, but that's a heavy lift, just so you know, in my experience.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of how I've done the structuring before, and again, this is also open to how, what we see as a group is best. I'd like to make things as free as possible for the live event.
Yeah.
So people can come to as many sessions as they want to over the course of the couple days, and then the recordings are available to the people who paid for a ticket.
Yeah.
In general, I usually charge, I think for Compassionate Action we charged $10 for people who wanted access to the recordings. I think for Glow this year I'm charging $25, something like that. Usually presenters get free access to the recordings, plus I download a copy of their presentation for them so that they can take that video and do whatever they want with it. This is not, again, set in stone. Again, I want to make this as accessible as possible. So I think moving to a pay what you can pricing model similar to my other events would probably be ideal. And if people feel so inclined to donate, great. But the important point is to get as many people in and feeling like they're part of a community and part of something bigger. Um, uh, I wish we could do more with multiple language interpretation. If we raised a lot of money, there's third party um, tools that work with Ring Central events that use AI, but they're expensive. And so that's something that we need to think about. And then usually in my events, I have the option for people to record their presentation, and then I upload it to the conference platform. So if people can't make the live times, then they can submit a recording, and we'll play it at a given time, and it will be accessible in the library of recordings. In general, with Glow, because we're trying to make sure that everybody can attend live sessions, we start at noon Central Time um, on one day and go to about 9 o'clock at night in Central Time Zone in the US. And then we do asynchronous sessions overnight, so there's something for everyone at some point, but not necessarily live. And then we start up early in the morning in US time zones to make sure that people can, like in India, can present to a live audience
Yeah.
as well. So we can structure the time so that if in that kind of regard, to do it completely live 24 hours a day is exhausting.
Yep.
So we probably don't want to do that, but we can figure out what that looks like as well. Um, I would love to do this in September, but we could also postpone this and do this later on. I feel like there's some urgency for doing this kind of thing because things keep snowballing in terms of alarming things that are going on.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some good momentum right now in terms of people becoming more active, and there's more interest in that. I can do this. It's feasible to do this, but it means that our conference committee also has to help get the word out and really help promote if we're going to do this.
Mhm.
So that's kind of my thinking in terms of the timing. And again, nothing is set in stone. Um, I think September is ambitious, but I would
Yes.
love to do it. Um, so when I was putting together a plan, and I have a link to the document, which was basically applying Claude, the AI tool, with some queries. Uh, Claude proposed doing some sort of framework for a long-term kind of plan, and I don't think that we're ready for that by any means. But I do think if it is a success and people like it and we think it's worthwhile, it feels to me like we could do something more regularly.
Mm.
Um, because this is such a moment by moment changing scenario here in the US. Uh, and I think we also need to think about how we measure the impact. And if we could find partners that are good with this kind of, with measurement tools and that sort of thing, maybe a political science department at a university would love to take this on and do some surveys or something to measure potential impact over the course of time. But I think this is really important. It's not my area of expertise, but I would love to really kind of think about the long term at some point.
Mhm.
Um, and then about the platform itself, Ring Central Events is, I know it pretty much forwards and backwards. I have an agency license, which means I can rebrand it for other clients.
Mhm.
So for example, I've done a conference for the NEA Foundation, an online ed camp for them, and that has been branded as theirs. Or the Compassionate Action Conference was also branded for the Charter for Compassion. So that's one aspect of it, of the license I have. There is something called speed networking within the platform where you can do small, quick meetings with people, kind of like speed dating. And at the Compassionate Action Conference, people loved that. They met people from all over the world. At the NEA event, I met a teacher who teaches on a NATO base in Belgium. And it was a really great way to have kind of a one-on-one interaction and make it more human-centered than just listening to a presentation in a room. So we can really push that and have the platform open early so people can start taking advantage of that. You can also agree to exchange information within the platform, that you can host your own meeting up to 20 people right on Ring Central Events. So it could serve as um, you know, a place where people can have behind the scenes meetings to collaborate and plan for other things. And uh, you can access it on a phone, on any kind of computer. It's hard to present from a phone, but we've had some people participate that way as well from network challenge parts of the world. There are two different kinds of rooms. There's kind of a stage room, which is kind of a front-facing, talk at people kind of room, and it can be broadcast to I have the tools to be able to broadcast it to other social media. So we could broadcast, keynote presentations to YouTube. Um, and it has and these rooms have a chat where people can interact with the speaker and that sort of thing. There are also session rooms, which are more like Zoom rooms, and they have breakouts and more interactive features like confetti. Um, and those are better for workshopy kinds of presentations where people really want interaction and want people to be able to turn on their audio and their video. So we have choices of that within the platform. And there's polling and that sort of thing as well. We can also offer a virtual expo. This has been hard to get people to kind of go to, but in my previous events, we've had dedicated expo time where there are no live sessions going on for an hour, and everybody goes and visits the sponsors that are at the expo. And the people who have booths can have a session room attached to their booth, or can put up a video or a presentation for asynchronous viewing. So that's part of it. Um, Ring Central Events also has third-party apps that work with it. So for example, I have a Mentimeter license for polling, and I can build a poll and put it right in, kind of integrate it into Ring Central Events. There's a whole library, just like Zoom has a whole library of tools that work within the Zoom platform, so does Ring Central Events. So that's a little bit about the platform. So I'm going to wrap up in a second here, but these are kind of the advantages I see of why we want to do this. I don't think there's any kind of cross-sector event like this. If I'm wrong, tell me. We want this to be practical, not policy. We don't want this to be pie in the sky necessarily. We want people to develop partners, and this is a means to doing that. And have some, and if this works, doing more events for year-round community building. I'm good at managing these events and can handle the back end and structure things. We want to be as accessible as possible to people. Because we're limited in money, I think that there were, it would be great to have somebody doing American Sign Language during these events and that sort of thing, but we're not that fancy yet. If we raise gazillion dollars, then of course that would be a priority. And we really want to kind of get situated where, sectors are talking to each other and learning from each other. So, there's a survey that you can fill out if you have not done already for giving some feedback about the conference. There's a planning document that I have generated, and I'll give you the link to that too. And then that research brief that I told you about earlier, I have that as well. In terms of the planning committee, I'm not set in stone of how we organize this at all, but you can get involved with the planning committee and help shape the future of this. You can present yourself, and we want you to be, if you do present, we want, if you have some sort of project or initiative or organization, we want you to be self-promotional. We want you to tell your story to inspire others and to get other people to come to your things. But all, and also offer practical ideas for people to learn from what you've done. And we want to build community. We want people to get to know each other and feel like they're connected. And that's been the great thing about my global events, is that there are a lot of people who've met in the rooms of the Global Education Conference, now called GLOW, who've all gone on to collaborate and work together. I'm thinking specifically of a teacher in Mexico and a teacher in Milwaukee who collaborated, and then they end up, and meeting in person, and they keynoted my conference one year. If you're going to build your global network, it's really hard to do it unless you're traveling all over the place. And
Right.
most people aren't. So if you can do it online somewhere, and also, for Walter's been involved with social media from the get-go in
Yeah.
education. When we were all on Twitter and Facebook and that sort of thing early on, there was such excitement and positivity about social media, and people
Yes.
were really connected. It's now very different. People are obviously divided, but also not that people are that active on social media. I just was
Right.
looking at the ISTE hashtag for the upcoming conference, and it's all self-promotional stuff. It's nothing that's genuine or sharing,
Yeah.
which really alarms me. So, like, how can we bring back the good aspects of social media and platforms like this to show the potential power for that sort of thing? So these are some of the questions I have for us, and let's see how we're doing for time. We've got like 20 minutes. Um, I would love to hear, like, if you have any democracy challenges that your organization is facing, if you have some expertise that you could contribute. Um, you know, what are your thoughts on what I've just shared with you? Is this possible, or is this crazy?
Oh yeah. No, and it's timely. It's possible. It's timely.